Not a matter of if, but when crisis will rock your world. I'm Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, licensed attorney, and host of The Crisis Files. In each case file, we explore a real-world crisis. My crisis squad and I seek solutions. We also turn to high-profile guests, making a difference outside of their usual spheres of influence. Today, that person is Ken Barlow, chief meteorologist and Emmy award-winning meteorologist at KSTP TV, the ABC affiliate in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. He's here for the case file I call Inner Narrative. Ken's backstory was unexpected to his viewers when he publicly shared for the first time in 2012 that he was bipolar. He was diagnosed in 2007, keeping it from everyone but close family. Ken, the secret must have been another layer of anxiety on top of your mental health situation.
It was, and so was the surprise that when I told my mom why I was hospitalized, she said, "Oh, Dad had bipolar." That was shocking.
And here you are, an adult, full-fledged, living your life. You didn't even know that about your dad.
I was 45 years old, and he was too ashamed to tell his kids. And that's when I thought, this is wrong. This is definitely wrong.
And did that help really fuel how public you've gone with this?
It has eventually. At first, it didn't. I was diagnosed in 2007, and I didn't come forward publicly till 2012. It was great for me. I'm not saying it's for everybody at all. It was good for me because I learned that there were many more people that had it. Because the first thing you do is you Google who has bipolar disorder that's famous. And I came up with Ben Stiller, Britney Spears, a lot of different people. So there were many people that I could at least see and relate to in that way, that I've seen them on TV, so I know they're real, and they have this. Okay.
And they're living productive lives.
And it's not just me, correct.
But some of the headlines also that you found around that time were also negative.
Yeah, very troubling. There was a case in Massachusetts where we lived at the time of a woman who had bipolar disorder, had gone off her meds, and she took her niece and nephew by the hand and walked into the traffic on the interstate. So that got into my mind, too, because that was the next day after I got out of the hospital. That was in the paper. So I'm thinking all this, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is this what I am? Am I going to do this? I don't have anybody to look up to. My dad had died already. So I couldn't even ask him what it's like. He had passed away a few years before that.
You've said that it was kind of a battle to get diagnosed. When all is said and done, now that we're living where you're living, what you're doing, how open you are you still really relieved you were diagnosed?
Yes. I am, because it started in college when I knew something was wrong. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. My wife, my girlfriend at the time, now 40-year wife, is saying, you got to slow down. You got to slow down. So I thought something was wrong because I felt kind of out of control. So I went to the college doctor, and he sent me to a hospital to have an EGG done, which is putting all the pins in your head. And he said, no, nothing's wrong. And I went on my way. And then 15 years later, something happened again. I was down. I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't know why. My doctor said it's an August grass allergy. So there were all of these things. Then I was high again and didn't know I was manic. I went to the doctor. She said I was just dizzy. So she gave me some medication for that, for vertigo, which I knew I wasn't. It wasn't that kind of dizzy. So yeah, it was a long road and very frustrating.
Very frustrating. So your own acceptance of this has also been empowering to others. I follow you on Facebook. We know each other through TV circles. I'm really impressed with how you've shared your story. And you told me you wanted people to understand that they're not alone, and that those of us who might not be bipolar to understand people who are people too.
Right. And everybody, if you don't have a problem, you're lying. Not you personally, but everybody.
And I have many.
That's good to hear, because so do I, and so does everybody else. That's the thing. The world is filled with issues that people have. Otherwise, we wouldn't be human. Mine happens to be that I have bipolar disorder, anxiety, and a few other minor things. But somebody else may have a heart disease. Somebody has high cholesterol. Somebody has terrible headaches, cancer, all these things. Everybody has something. I just want people to know who have other things. This is just our thing. This is just what we kind of bear. This is what our thing is to worry about and take medicine for.
So I want to share in your own words, Ken, and this is fairly recent to our conversation today, on March 20, 2024 on Facebook. And this is a platform where you have been very open. There's a photo of you on your porch, and you say, "Hello, my dear friends. I want to let you know that I was in a very dark place for 3 weeks. I was lying lower than normal. I emerged from the jet blackness of deep depression just last Wednesday. If you are in despair, I was just there. If you can't find the light, I was just there." And then you go on to give people some tips. Go for a short walk or run. Shower, even though the spray might hurt your skin. Don't give up. Call 988. This was so detailed, Ken. Why and how do you even share this?
I share it because I don't want people to think I was alone. I thought I was alone for 5 years, where I didn't come out and say anything. And I was ashamed, more importantly. I was ashamed because my dad was embarrassed. He passed that on to me, not in a mean way, because people of his generation never would talk about mental illness. As we got toward the new generations, it became more of a talking point, more of somebody saying, "Hey, are you okay?" Especially after COVID. So now it's different. But back then, he hid it. He was embarrassed. I took on that embarrassment, so I didn't want anyone to know, until finally I just said, that I've had enough. I can't keep this in anymore.
Tell me a little bit about people's reactions, your viewers, your family, your more outside circle friends who care about you a lot, but they didn't know.
The thing that I was worried about the most, I have 3 kids, and they were all young at the time. I was worried that their parents wouldn't let their kids come to play over at my house anymore. Of all the things to worry about, that's what I was worried about. And no one did. Everybody understood. And they weren't all good, close friends. We knew them because you have to know the other parents if you're letting the kid go to their house. But they weren't close friends, but no one ever said anything. It was never an issue with any of them. And that, to me, is a huge case for telling your kids and maybe telling some friends if that's what you're comfortable with.
And I love that story, to hear that too. It shows us you're a real person, you're a real parent. You were first and foremost worried about your kids. Mm-hmm. And then the reaction to the news was not shocking, was not mean. It was actually very humane and loving.
It was both of those things, yeah. And then the kids had sleepovers and everything went on. Their kids came over and had sleepovers. It just went on as normal. And for me to have that part of normalcy after coming out publicly with such an announcement or pronouncement, that made it okay. Even just that one thing made it okay. But then everything was okay. So it was the best thing I've ever done.
Well, I congratulate you. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
The other side of this is therapy, medication. What can you share from a real firsthand perspective?
You need it. As much as you think when you start to feel better that you don't need the medication, it happens all the time. It's happened to me where not lately, but it happened when I first got diagnosed, that I would take my medicine and I would feel better and I'd say, I don't need this anymore, put it aside, and then I would crash. You have to take your medicine. Take it as your doctor orders. I know there are adjustments, constant adjustments to the type of medicine, to the amount of medicine, but you have to keep taking it consistently and simultaneously having a therapist. I believe strongly in therapy.
And the thing about a therapist is you can share things with that person that you might not share with your wife and your kids, or maybe you do, but you're not expecting your family to be your therapist.
There are some things that you just don't share with your kids anyway, you know that. And also, there are things I don't share with my wife because there are things that happened, when I was a child where she wasn't there. It's just no need to tell her unless I feel the need to tell her. Then I will. I tell her most things. Some things you can keep with the therapist, and that's okay. They promote that. They say, you don't have to tell anybody. Tell me. I'm your out.
What is your advice now that we've heard everything here from your, the Cliff Notes version of the last 20 years for you? What is that first step? There are people listening right now who can see kind of you in them, but they still feel nervous and anxious to share this, to let someone else in.
Which is common, which is normal, I should say. It's okay to feel that way is a better word. It's okay to worry about what other people think because, again, we're only human. If you didn't think what other people thought, at least some, things would be a little bit different, I think. So it's okay to worry about it. The question is, how will it help me in my telling people? For me personally, it was a great help. I didn't see that coming. I blurted it out at a NAMI walk. when I was hosting it. It didn't come as a thing that I thought of, I'm doing this today and I'm doing this now. It was a surprise. And it was a surprise to me and a surprise to the people at the walk.
You mentioned NAMI. That is a national organization. There are statewide chapters. That would be a great organization for people to connect.
Oh, my gosh. I was on the board of directors of the Minnesota NAMI, and the work they do, Sue Abderholden, who's been in charge of it for years, has molded it. She brings legislatures, laws that they can pass to help, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, but she has provided so much, and NAMI as a whole can provide you, a single person, or your family, or both, with the help they may need. Families get counseling too, if you want them to. If you get counseling, there is a place there for free counseling for your families as well.
You mentioned, everyone has their thing. It could be high blood pressure. It could be a mental illness or anything. I mean, you just mentioned, you name it, it's out there. What is your advice for parents? Because you were diagnosed as an adult. Maybe now you can look back at your childhood and see some episodes from your father that now you put puzzle pieces together. We're often hearing about adult diagnosed ADHD, adult diagnosed autism spectrum. What can you tell parents? Because if there's a little Ken out there, wow, wouldn't it be great if he could know at age 10 versus age 45?
Wow. I would say that my parents probably did know something was different because I would stay up late at night. I required very little sleep. I didn't study very much, and yet I still got straight A's most of the time. And I kept to myself a lot in my room. I didn't go out of my room much. So I was, by today's standards, a loner, and I was kind of a geek because I was studying weather in my room the whole time. When I was 7 years old on, I wasn't lonely, though. It was the way I wanted to be. But looking out as a parent, I would say, Ken's spending an awful lot of time in his room. Let's go see if everything's okay.
And maybe you do need to. The parent needs to bring in
Right.
a counselor, a psychologist, psychiatrist.
Right. And that would certainly help. And just bring it up to the child, we're going to get you someone to talk to. Don't say, we're taking you to the doctor. Because, the doctor to a kid they may be scared. I don't know, I was.
Well, and the worst thing you want to do for a child is make them think something is wrong.
Right, and make it is a medical diagnosis. But yeah, if you can say, we're going to have you talk to somebody today about how you're feeling, that's the way I would have liked it best when I was a kid.
And maybe many kids would welcome that because it's a different adult, not their parent, that
Right.
they might be able to share and confide some things.
Right, because not only are we the kids and we're protected by the parents, we're the kids and we want to protect our parents. So I don't think the kids want to, in their minds, hurt the parents by saying there's something wrong with me. So yeah, I think saying, let's go speak or talk to somebody who can help you out.
Well, on the Crisis Files, we also really like to focus on hope and grace. I find hope in the fact that mental health conditions are less stigmatized. Certainly there's a way to go, but so much less stigmatized from when I was even college age. You were college age starting out in weather on TV. What is some hope that you find?
I find hope that the generation, Gen X, I think it is.
And Gen Z. And
Gen
yeah.
Z are talking about it openly, and they don't think it's weird. Adults still, I think, no matter how much we say that it's just somebody's thing that they have going on, I still think there's definitely a stigma that was just born in them for most people, and that's the way they were raised, because older parents may not have thought, unless they had something going on, that it was a medical thing and that they were just kind of quote-unquote crazy or something.
Exactly. And here's what I'll say, too, just from the legal perspective. I find hope in the fact that there are more laws out there protecting at least against discrimination.
Yes.
Workplace laws that enable employers to be much more flexible and not pass by someone, but actually bring different kinds of people in and let them be the enriching tapestry of any particular workplace.
Right. And the other thing is sick days often include mental health days, which is huge. Because who doesn't, whether you have a diagnosed illness or not, who doesn't need a mental break from work?
Speaking of work, I know some of your colleagues, not all of them, but how have your colleagues been over the years at the different stations you were since this went public?
To a person, they've been just wonderful. And the first thing that happened when I walked in after I went public, Rusty Gatenby was working at the station.
At KSTP.
At KSTP. And I walked in and I was tiptoeing and I was like, oh, geez, what's going to be the response from people? He looked up and he said, this is Rusty's humor. He goes, oh, there's the nutbag. And I laughed.
Yes.
Because for me, that was breaking the ice.
He wasn't tiptoeing around it.
No. And he knew what mental illness was because he knows people who have it. And he knew it would be funny to me, and it was absolutely hilarious to me. It's not correct to say that, but to me, on that day, it was the perfect thing that someone could say to me.
Right. He knew his audience.
He knew the audience, yes. He knew I would laugh at anything. And that was very funny to me because it broke the ice, too.
I love that you shared that. Well, thank you, Ken, for your candor, your bravery. I have no doubt you are helping countless people by joining us today. Keep up with Ken and connect directly with him on Facebook. His handle is Ken Barlow, Barlow. Today's Crisis Brief is brought to you by Mall of America. Number 1, you are not alone. Number 2, be your own health advocate. No matter what your age, if you feel something is wrong, keep looking for answers. Number 3, help is a link or a phone call away. Go to NAMI.org, that's NAMI.org, or call 988 for a comforting resource on the other end. An international destination for more than 30 years, the Mall of America continues to draw millions of guests from around the world. But the mall is so much more than shopping. Events, activations, and attractions continue to delight guests of all ages. They're also a strong supporter of the community and nonprofit organizations. Go to mallofamerica.com to find out more. Rate, review, and subscribe to The Crisis Files on your platform of choice. Check out our website, thecrisisfiles.com, to catch up on all case files in one easy spot. Follow us on YouTube and Instagram at The Crisis Files. I'm Roshini Rajkumar. Join me next time on The Crisis Files.